Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good or evil. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. Imagine the most powerful man in the world, a Roman emperor, waking up not with a proclamation of his own power, but with a personal reminder, a mental shield against the friction of human interaction. He didn't write this on a tablet for public display. He wrote it for himself, a private meditation. And nearly 2,000 years later, these words don't feel like ancient history. They feel like a tweet you might draft and delete, a thought that crosses your mind as you prepare for a difficult meeting or simply scroll through the comments section online. That feeling, that low-frequency hum of unease that underscores our days. It's the background noise of the 21st century. It's a sense of being perpetually off balance, adrift in a sea of overwhelming information yet starved of genuine wisdom. We are told we live in an age of unprecedented opportunity, yet many of us feel a profound sense of paralysis. We are hyper-connected through a global network of devices, yet we experience a deeply personal and pervasive loneliness. This is the central paradox we're going to unravel today. Is this constant, nagging disquiet a fundamental part of the human condition, the great existential angst of the philosophers? Or is it a uniquely modern affliction, a psychological fever induced by the very world we built? To even begin to answer this, we need to get our language straight. When we talk about anxiety in the medical world, we're rightly referring to a set of diagnosable conditions: generalized anxiety disorder, panic attacks, social phobias. These are debilitating states where the brain's fear circuitry is in overdrive. They are very real, and they require clinical attention and compassion. But what we're discussing today is something more subtle, more pervasive, and in many ways, more mysterious. It's the anxiety of the soul. Existential angst, as thinkers like Søren Kierkegaard and Jean-Paul Sartre described it, is not a disorder. It's a consequence of our consciousness. It is the profound dizziness that arises when we confront the raw, unfiltered truth of our existence. Kierkegaard called it the dizziness of freedom. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff. The fear of falling is normal anxiety. But the sudden, terrifying realization that you have the power to choose to jump, that is existential angst. It's the shocking awareness of your own autonomy. Sartre took this even further with his famous declaration that we are condemned to be free. There is no pre-written script for your life, no cosmic director, no inherent, universal purpose handed to you at birth. You are thrown into existence, and from that moment on, you are responsible for creating your own essence through the choices you make. Every decision, from who you love to what you have for breakfast, is a brushstroke in the self-portrait you are constantly painting. This is not a gentle, liberating freedom. It is a crushing weight, a terrifying responsibility. This freedom leads inevitably to a sense of alienation. If we are the sole authors of our own meaning, it means we are fundamentally alone in a universe that is silent, vast, and indifferent to our fate. This isn't the loneliness of not having friends. It's the cosmic loneliness of being a thinking, feeling creature in a universe of mindless matter and empty space. It's the feeling that you are shouting your questions into a void that will never shout back. This is the cold, hard bedrock of existential angst. Now, let's pivot from this timeless dread to the very specific anxieties of right now. Let's invent a character. Let's call him Alex. Alex's alarm doesn't gently wake him. It jolts him into consciousness with a jolt of cortisol. Before he's even processed a single original thought, his hand instinctively reaches for his phone. He's not seeking information. He's seeking a fix, a dopamine hit to quell the vague unease of waking up. His thumb begins to scroll. He sees a post from a college friend on a mountaintop in Peru, the caption reading "Living my best life." Alex, who is about to face a 2-hour commute to a job he finds mildly dissatisfying, feels a familiar pang. It's not jealousy exactly. It's a feeling of profound inadequacy, a sense that his life, in comparison, is dull and meaningless. He then scrolls past a headline about an impending economic crisis and another about a new climate disaster. A wave of helplessness washes over him. This is the anxiety of modern life. It's not the deep, philosophical dread of freedom. It's the frantic, buzzing anxiety of constant comparison and perceived failure. It's the anxiety of performance. We are no longer just living. We are curating, branding, and broadcasting a version of our lives for public consumption. Our messy, complicated reality is in a constant battle with the polished, filtered highlight reels of everyone else. This creates a state of perpetual psychic tension. So we have these two powerful currents, the ancient existential angst that whispers of meaninglessness, and the modern social anxiety that screams of inadequacy. The crucial question is, what is the relationship between them? Are they separate forces? Or has our modern world become a perfect incubator for existential dread by systematically dismantling the very psychological immune systems we once used to cope with it? To answer that, we must turn to the great physician of the soul, Carl Gustav Jung. Jung believed that the 20th century human was in a state of profound spiritual crisis. For thousands of years, he argued, humanity lived within a psychic container. This container was built from myth, religion, and ritual. These weren't just quaint stories or empty superstitions. They were sophisticated psychological technologies. They provided a cosmology, a map of the universe and our place in it. They gave us symbols that connected our tiny, fragile ego to something eternal and vast, the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious, in Jung's model, is the deepest layer of the psyche. It is the inherited psychic bedrock of all humanity, containing the archetypes, primordial, universal patterns and images that are the building blocks of our shared human experience. Think of them as the instincts of the soul, the hero, the great mother, the wise old man, the trickster, the shadow. These aren't just characters in stories. They are living psychic realities within each of us. The great myths and religions gave these archetypes a name and a face. They projected them onto the heavens, creating gods, goddesses, and cosmic dramas. This process gave people a way to understand and relate to the powerful, non-rational forces of their own psyche. It provided a container for existential dread. The terror of death was framed within a story of afterlife or rebirth. The chaos of suffering was given meaning as a test or a part of a divine plan. It didn't eliminate angst, but it metabolized it, transformed it into something that could be endured, even revered. Then came the Enlightenment and the age of scientific rationalism. Jung, a scientist himself, had immense respect for this development, but he also saw its profound shadow side. In our quest to master the material world, we staged what the sociologist Max Weber called the disenchantment of the world. We stripped nature of its soul, myths of their truth, and the cosmos of its mystery. The gods were dethroned and replaced by scientific laws. The world was no longer a living, breathing organism. It was a machine to be understood and exploited. This disenchantment left us psychically unprotected. The archetypes, no longer projected onto a living cosmos, didn't just disappear. They fell back into the individual psyche, where they now roam, restless and unrecognized. The great, numinous power that was once experienced as God or the gods is now experienced as a neurotic symptom, a compulsive addiction, a free-floating anxiety, or a consuming depression. The existential void, once filled by a rich tapestry of symbols, is now just a void. From this Jungian perspective, the frantic, buzzing anxiety of modern life is a desperate flight from this inner emptiness. Our obsession with productivity, our endless consumption of entertainment, our desperate need for validation on social media. It's all a strategy to avoid the terrifying silence within. We try to fill the void with noise, with things, with achievements, hoping that if we just stay busy enough, we won't have to confront the ultimate questions of our existence. We are running from our own freedom. But Jung's diagnosis, while grim, contains the seeds of a profound cure. If the problem is that we have lost our connection to the deep, symbolic world within, the solution is to find our way back, not by reverting to old dogmas, but by embarking on the most important journey a modern individual can take, the journey of individuation. This is the process of becoming a psychological individual, a whole, indivisible, and unique being. This journey begins with a courageous act of self-confrontation. It requires turning to face the part of ourselves we least want to see, the shadow. The shadow is the dark brother or dark sister within. It is the repository of everything we have repressed and disowned about ourselves because it was deemed unacceptable by our family, our culture, or our own conscious ego. Our anger, our envy, our greed, our vulnerabilities, our secret desires, they all live in the shadow. We spend most of our lives running from the shadow. We project it onto others, seeing in them the very faults we cannot bear to see in ourselves. The political opponent we demonize, the rival we despise, the group we scapegoat, they become the screen for our own unacknowledged darkness. The journey of individuation demands that we withdraw these projections and take ownership of our own shadow. It is a deeply humbling and morally challenging task. By integrating the shadow, we don't become evil, we become whole. We become more human, more grounded, and surprisingly, more compassionate. We realize that the capacity for darkness exists in everyone, including ourselves, which makes us less quick to judge and condemn others. Furthermore, the shadow contains not just negativity, but also a tremendous amount of locked-away psychic energy, creativity, and raw vitality. Integrating it is like reclaiming a lost part of our soul. The journey then leads deeper, to an encounter with the Anima in a man or the Animus in a woman. This is the archetype of our inner, contrasexual soul. For a man, the Anima is the feminine principle within him. His capacity for relatedness, intuition, and emotion. For a woman, the Animus is the masculine principle, her capacity for reason, logic, and assertive action. Often, we first encounter this figure projected onto a real person, leading to the phenomenon of falling madly in love, where we see the other person as our other half. Individuation requires moving beyond this projection and developing a conscious, inner relationship with this soul figure. For a man, this means learning to listen to his feelings, to trust his intuition, to cultivate his eros. For a woman, it means honing her intellect, clarifying her values, and finding her authentic voice, her logos. This inner union of masculine and feminine, what the alchemists called the hieros gamos, or sacred marriage, is what creates psychological balance and profound creativity. As this process of integrating the shadow and the soul figure unfolds, the center of the personality begins to shift. It moves from the fragile ego, which is obsessed with control and social standing, to the self, the true center and totality of the psyche. The self is the archetype of wholeness, the ordering principle that brings harmony to the chaos of our inner world. Jung saw it as the God within, the source of our deepest wisdom and our most authentic purpose. This journey, this alchemical transformation of the soul, is the ultimate answer to both modern anxiety and timeless angst. It doesn't offer a simple pill or a 5-step program. It offers something far more profound, a path to discovering your own unique, unshakable meaning. When you are anchored in the self, you are no longer tossed about by the frantic waves of social expectation or paralyzed by the deep fear of meaninglessness. The angst, doesn't vanish, but it is transformed. It becomes the creative tension that fuels your growth, the dark, fertile soil from which the unique flower of your true personality can finally, fully bloom.